Paper trails is a knowledge world that provokes the status quo of epistemological elitism and incomplete ontological frameworks of knowledge that define contemporary academic structures. These academic structures will be analyzed, fragmented, and critically repurposed for their meaningful components, as new futures are built to address the ubiquity of digital environments and notions of citizenship within them. Nodes form around shared intentionality and reach out to create a distributed network. This network accommodates both the highly specialized knowledge content generated from within a node and the relational edges it shares with others. Pedagogy is a crucial component of the democratic process. The social and intellectual frameworks we encounter in school are the initial formative structures through which we understand ourselves, negotiate our relationship to a group, and later to notions of citizenship and society. How we treat matters of authorship, participation, qualification, and the rituals of recognition that give these accomplishments meaning in forthcoming models of education will define the public craft of knowledge building. Through a mixed reality archive of individualized qualifications, personal experiences, and intellectual exchanges, the knowledge world of paper trails will challenge the privileged enclosures of academia in granting qualifications by allowing accreditation to happen through a participatory process. The world takes on the characteristics of paper as a symbol of the incompleteness of the world without the mark of the user, and of the contract between individuals written by each interaction. At the highest levels of academia, the notions of indeterminate world building, the relationality of disciplines, and the expectation of comprehensive individual investigation under trusted advisors takes place.
Professor kind of took a special interest in me, and he said, "You really should think about graduate school." The PhD process, at least in the social behavioral sciences, you take lots and lots of coursework, and then you do research. And the coursework and whatever your graduate assistantships are supposed to prepare you to get ready to do this thing where you're contributing some original, novel piece of scholarship to your field. Second part really had to do with, so you jump through a bunch of hoops, and even though they might not be designed to scare the bejabbers out of you, they typically do.
I had huge moments of doubt constantly. For instance, before my qualifying exam, I actually just wanted to leave. You're really just grilled for like 3 hours in a private session with your committee, and they do on purpose grill you to the point that you don't know the answer. I didn't have my first publication for a long time, and there were years where I didn't have like a finished product to show for myself, and that really gets to you mentally because you're just going in alone for long periods of time with like very uncertain outcomes.
The third element, it's recognized by this larger community of scholars, and they either accept you in that community of scholars, congratulations, Dr. Wilson, or they say, sorry, you did not cut the mustard. At the end of this, you look in the mirror and go, oh my gosh, I did it. Wow, I must be competent.
This process is not only intellectual, but works to form a rite of passage for those that undertake it. A rite of passage is the process through which an individual acquires a significant change of status within society, where separation, liminality, and incorporation allow them to move from one group to another. The rewards of recognition during acts of incorporation have important consequences in the ability for individuals to feel group identity and increased feelings of affiliation. Without these acts of incorporation, an individual thus remains in the liminal zone, poised indefinitely at the threshold of belonging.
It's undeniable that there's a great degree of spectacle around the Viva that's lost through the screen. You're not in the room, nobody shakes your hand to say, congratulations, doctor. It's such a big thing. I could never have dreamed of this. And now I'm here and I'm just like, was it real?
Puncturing the classroom as the defined enclosure for qualified learning and production means having the ability to spawn knowledge worlds all around us as we craft our own experience as individuals.
I'm a really jumpy writer. I constantly need new environments to write in. First year, I was just jumping from cafe to cafe. I was looking for the best background noise. I like having people speaking in the background, and it just needed to be the right vibe. For those of us who are doing work in sociology or anthropology or work that requires more ethnographic methods, you spend a year in a field. So I was in Berlin and New York, and I was writing when I could whilst also being out and recording my data. When I returned and I was doing my actual write-up proper, it would swing between my room, the department once a week, but friends' homes, and then cafes. I chose to do a PhD because I wanted to zoom in on a particular issue that I thought wasn't being addressed for those of us who are concerned in general with migrants' rights. My field per se did not exist. I had to synthesize a lot of different fields. So I took critical migration studies, and I took information society and sort of science and technology studies and artificial intelligence and big data discourse and political sociology. And I basically created ways that were sort of historically constructed in which tech had mattered to things like poverty and inequality and a state's sense of control over its population or over others. And I kind of traced how these different narratives and these different studies were really like linked to each other. I approached a supervisor who I found quite inspiring at the time. They'd introduced me to urban geography, and he just bounced ideas back and forth with me until we had a proposal.
By allowing learning and qualification to happen outside the classroom, the possibilities for diverse, individualized qualification take shape as an individual's environment becomes a tool for investigation and mastery. Public pedagogy refers to lessons taught outside of formal educational institutions by popular culture, informal institutions, public spaces, public intellectualism, and social activism. Why should mastery of these lessons be outside the realm of qualification? Expanding qualification typologies is a key component for paper trails. In the marketplace for social and intellectual capital, users can display their interpretive models and individualized qualifications. When a user enters the marketplace, their stall will populate in a different location every time they enter to encourage discovery and participation with other users. The shape of the generated content or qualification can display the nature of its creation. Whether the individual has taken many disparate sources and focused them into a synthesized construction, or taken a piece of content and expanded its relational model to several other sources, objects become portals to an ever-expanding knowledge world. These interpretive models are symbolic of the way that knowledge moves through a community. Just as light cannot be seen as it moves through space, but is made evident as it casts itself upon a surface, knowledge too is measured when it passes from one agent to another as the receiving agent takes action upon it. In this way, agents can be understood to function like lenses, modifying and distributing knowledge in unique ways. In the center of the marketplace are the query trees. These act as distributed cognition for the community dealing with large and complex issues that require multifaceted sources and qualifications to negotiate. Users can add to these trees, and over time, the forest will act as a collective memory for the issues that steered agenda for the community. Displaying agendas through query trees is one of the ways of seeing and signaling topics of interest to each other. Regalia is another. Academic regalia is a succinct display of centralized power structures at play in the academic apparatus.
Different institutions have different regalia. The three stripes that indicate your field or the PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, which is a blue color. The hood itself, the interior of the hood, are your school colors. You can know where they finished their most advanced degree. And so there's symbolism to each of these things. So if you know how to read it, you can read the feathers on the birds.
The authority of academic record and qualification lies with the institution, which demands conformity to the notions of discipline and accredited ontological frameworks. The central authority of academic institutions works in two ways to support its ongoing propagation. It seeds itself in the minds and appearance of individuals all over the world by restructuring their own investigative frameworks to gain access to these qualification systems, and demands the reorientation of physical bodies into the enclosure of academic campuses, and subsequently into those immediate economies. Paper trails subverts the model of avatar skin ownership that academic institutions enforce on their users. Starting with a single sheet of paper when the user first enters the system, the avatar skin evolves as the user interacts with content over time. Each sheet represents a shared or generated piece of content, and the accumulation acts as a signal to others in the community of the content on which the user is interacting with. Identity and impression management can happen through this avatar skin at any time, given the nature of the relationship that one user has to another. The visibility of specific content can also be tailored to social structures. As academic institutions seek to own the skin of their incorporated, they also seek sole proprietorship of the recognition given to individuals through ritual ceremonies. Paper trail subverts this power structure by allowing acts of incorporation to take on malleable form as they are designed by the individual. These acts are symbolic of the hard work and sacrifice made for authorship and participation in a knowledge world, and are acknowledged before the individual's chosen community.
I have more of an extroverted nature, and I like being in dialogue with the room that I'm in.
In this content landscape, every block that the user has contributed to the system is called up. The user is joined by all of the community members that have had stake in their incremental qualification. At the moment of evaluation, the content blocks disassociate from the avatars and become the landscape. This unrobing of the avatar skin is the stake made by each user seeking participation in this cumulative qualification, and acts as collateral for the engagement of appropriate discourse as determined by the node. The block containing this interaction is now written to every avatar present. In another manifestation, nodes of shared intention and the connective edges forged between them take form. Each platform is an entry point for an individual or community node to enter the ceremonial space. This network formulation displays the unique breadth of connections formed across disciplines and walks of life that happens in this academic journey.
And so the meeting of worlds of your family who are watching as externals, of your friends and peers who have watched as internals and who have full awareness of what you've gone through, you understand and see them, and it's a moment of catharsis and solidarity and joy that allows you to go through the journey of accepting yourself as this new thing.
At the heart of paper trails lies the notion that spaces for qualified participation and knowledge building should also house the rituals that take place within a community of shared intention. The ambition is to leverage the ubiquity of oncoming mixed reality environments to provide a podium of visibility to multivariate frameworks of crafted experience, while giving individuals the ownership of their immutable record of qualifications. The social and intellectual interactions that play out in paper trails will be written to these virtual pages like the qualifications of old, but will give rise to the nascent knowledge worlds of oncoming digital futures.